Actually, I think it needs to stay open.
All right, call to order the Thursday, October 20th, 6 p.m. Tourism Commission meeting. Roll call, Ed Hopler is not present. Jeff Kuderski, not present. Sean, present. Lance Schaefer,
Here?
Mark Wiley
Here.
is not here. All right, item 2 of the agenda, citizen comment period. We do not have any citizens here, so closing at 6 o'clock, citizen comment period. Item agenda number 3, approved draft minutes from 6/29/2022. At least we're meeting today. I wasn't here, so
You weren't here.
what did we miss?
I'll make a motion to approve.
And I'll second that motion.
Are you sure you're good with this?
Yeah.
Positive?
I think so.
Okay.
I've read it like 15 times.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, approves. 601, financial report. I handed out the financials that we got that Jeff sent over. I also, in your packet, you'll see I asked for 2021s. And I asked for a balance of 2021 because there was some question over what we've paid for the Franklin Field agreement. I also attached to that the statement from the milkman for the Franklin Field agreement, just to show where we're at.
Okay.
All set aside, we have on the wayfinding, the signs and the banners that have been in the community that we should talk about in the next budget. If we should buy a bulk sum of them rather than doing this individually, they are very pricey. We also have was going to check to the company.
Okay.
So that's all in here. We haven't received a dime yet from any of the motel room tax, which I was told that we should start seeing some income come in November, December. And then we also see some change coming in January, November, December. And then we also see some change coming in January. I literally just got this like yesterday, so processing this. I want to ask if there's any way that we can get an idea of where we think we are for the room tax for the year. That we can get an idea of where we think we are for the room tax for the year. And where how much we think we're going to be bringing in. That's going to heavily impact our budget for how we close this year. So it's a good thing. Two things here that I see, based off of reading this, we haven't really spent anything. Here that I see, based off of reading this, we haven't really spent anything. We also are kind of caught up with the milkman, and now this kind of gives us a fresh start of how we want to spend our funds with the money that's coming in. So hopefully we had a good year based off of last year. I don't think we were. So hopefully we had a good year based off of last year. I don't think we thought it was a good year, right? But not a good year. I think we talked.
Last year we thought it was passable.
Yeah. So I mean, with the year balance was 191,000. At least we were happy to make that extra. And I think when we did our budget, we're happy to make that extra. And I think when we did our budget, we thought we would have more money by now, and we don't. Right?
Right.
So Lance, can I ask you a question in terms of tax on paying? Like, is that on paying? Like, is that how it always happens at the end of the year? The tax gets paid, or is that?
Right, so when the city adopted their room tax law, they said, listen, we'll take our chunk first. And so then whatever they're grandfathered in a certain amount left over. So we typically, I think the last couple of years, we haven't seen anything till fourth quarter, after they've made their deposits.
Yeah. So for me, I think I'd like to kind of at least have, going forward, I'd kind of like to at least know where we are.
What we expect to receive.
Well, that's, yeah.
Correct.
I mean, you're looking right now in our 2022 budget, we're proposed that we should be having $342,000.
Right.
That's what we anticipated to collect, which means that right now we don't have
What do they mean on this encumbered year to date? Is there,
So the encumbered, I asked that question. Um, I'll dig for it. Telling me it's we technically haven't spent any money.
well, and that's what I was gonna ask, in this middle row, this series of rows,
It-
this is our budget.
Yep. So the
And then these things in blue, we've spent, so
so
we,
I'm reading this. This is the original budget we put in,
right,
right? This is with the amended budget. So this is what was approved.
okay,
Here's our year to date
right,
of where we are year to date, and what we've actually spent
is in the year-to-date balance.
is in the year to date balance.
Okay,
That's the thing, is that there's so used to our budget, we've only used 15% of our budget. The is what I'm taking from this is what we're still owed.
okay. So just to
Which
map
these
this
are questions I can ask, so this is why we're talking about this.
Yeah, so just to map this in my mind, the 300,000 for sundry contractors. That
So-
was the sponsorship for rep.
Yeah, but then that's where I asked the question, because there was no spending there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I asked for the statement that's on your back page. It's
Yeah.
because The Rock picked up the check, and that was that. The Rock picked up the check, and that went into 2021. So if you look in 2021's, it's showing the 300,000 was spent in 2021.
But that's not,
So we paid 300,000 in
We did.
2021.
We gave them 2 checks in 21.
it's not,
So we paid 300,000
We
in
did.
2021.
We gave them 2 checks in 21.
Yep. So now we only owe them the one check,
Yeah, and that'll,
which,
so one of those checks in 21 was for 22.
yeah, so what I'm doing is I'm trying to line up through our budgets to make sure that all this is lining up correctly, because I know when Callie left, make sure that all this is lining up correctly, because I know when Callie left, there was some debate whether or not she was trying to tell me we didn't owe the 300,000, remember?
Yeah.
And I said, no, we do, because she wasn't taking into consideration the COVID year, or the year we started.
Right,
The COVID year, or the year we started.
right.
So we spent the 300,000 in 21. That's why that one looks like we haven't spent anything, and that's what shows why we budgeted 300,000, because we anticipated 2 checks.
Okay,
The Rock picked up that check that we owed. We anticipated 2 checks.
okay,
The Rock picked up that check that we owed in 21. So we approved that 150K in 21, not 22.
so this last page, I agree with this. This shows.
That's
we-
right? Does that show right?
That we owed them money, we paid them 2 times, and now we owe them 4.
We owe them for
extra.
this.
are you on this page 2 of 2, Mark?
No, the last page.
This
Go to the
last
last page, the statement.
Okay, sure.
So I asked The Rock for a statement, and that was what we got.
So, okay, so 150 is due yet for 2022,
That's
No,
what.
for 2023.
for 2023.
Yeah.
Well, it's a little reversed. Yeah,
We'll pay at the end, okay. so
we'll
we
always
paid-
pay at the end, so it'll look
We
yes.
pay for the year we just closed.
Yeah.
Gotcha,
But now we're caught up. Like
Right.
300,000 came out.
okay.
So now that's where I think with this is we're going to have a pretty big chunk of change that's expected. But the problem, to your point, is that I think the question throughout the year: do we know if we're on target to receive our balance? We have never been communicated that, right?
Right, and I knew that, just as you said, Lance, that the city takes their chunk first,
Right.
and then we get our portion after that, so they always get,
But if the city doesn't have like their chunk of, right? Like a percent, like 50% of it. There's no way we're going to get any of our money, let alone the 300,000.
So this third sheet, the one that shows the various hotels, it means nothing to us.
This third sheet, it actually is if you want to look at how everything was paid. We paid, if you go down on page 2 of that, it shows that we paid, it looks like we tried to pay a third to the Rock. So we paid 2, and then we reversed it, and then we reissued it. So for the first round, on 4/21 we had it. Then we tried to pay it in 11/9. The funding wasn't there. They didn't have the funding approved yet to go into our thing, so they reversed it, and then they reissued it on 12/28 so that it could get paid into 21, and then it was not being paid.
So on the page prior to that, where it shows motel room tax, is it your feeling that what we're seeing there next to these hotel companies is that portion of their payment that was put into the coffers of the Tourism Commission, or this?
Was because if you look, it's the 100, that balance matches that total.
The 191,246.
Yep.
Yeah.
Matches what the, where is that? Oh, here we go, the room tax year-to-date balance.
So remember, we were worried that we weren't going to get any funding in 21. So we budgeted for bare minimum 83K. When things started picking back up, we realized that we were going to get some, not all, and that's where that 191. So that's where we felt like we were comfortable to still at least pay for the Franklin Field agreement,
Right.
and then we would get caught up, and then anything else would be in addition to.
And figured we'd do that or more in 20.
Addition to.
And figured we'd do that or more in 2022, right?
Yeah, the intention was the thought is if we wanted to spend the money in 22, or did we need a catch-up year to just collect funds? Does that kind of make sense? I think I remember that. Make sense? I think I remember that.
Yeah.
Remember, because I think Amy did the budget in 21 with Callie, no
Right.
money down. They had me do the budget for 22, and the idea was that what were we going to get? And the idea was that what were we going to get in? There was really no expectation.
Okay.
But what the expectation is, remember, we changed the tax in the hotels
Right,
in 21, which is we were going to see more money
right.
coming in from that. We also then decided that hopefully we would be back to normal, which then would take that back to our normal 342.
Okay. But as far as we know then, we've not spent any of this in this.
We've not spent my questions that I have going over to the city that I put down is, I mean, I'm sure that the postage is paying for our membership dues and everything else like that. The membership dues is the $1,200. I remember approving that. The 863.
That's what we.
The 863.
That's what we approved last in June meeting.
Okay.
So
What was that for?
that was GoDaddy, the website hosting.
That's right.
GoDaddy. Okay. And then
And the 160 genetics. So we've had postage a couple times.
the advertising, that's our signage.
The 10220.
That's our signage, yeah.
Okay.
That's the,
That's when a
The-
bad storm came through and
entry.
knocked down all the signs down,
okay.
and we replaced them. Which
Okay.
that's visit that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that helps me understand what this sheet that we got from John means.
Yeah. So, because now next meeting we're gonna probably have to put a November 3rd meeting on the books for the budget for financials. We want to know what we have coming in, right?
Yeah.
So we want to know what we have coming in.
and nowhere in these financials, right, am I missing something that it doesn't give you, there's not a balance sheet here, this is just
No.
revenues and expenses.
No,
You have no idea
yeah.
what's sitting in the account.
Right.
Because we have
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because we had money left over from last year. so-
We didn't spend much money in those first couple of years, and to build up sort of a buffer for this situation where you don't get your tax receipts until later in the years. If you could pay your bills throughout the year.
Yeah, where's our money?
I got that underlined. I'll underline it again. Where's our money?
Where's the beat?
Okay.
I don't mean to make light of it, but
No, it's actually, well, this is where, without me saying that, that's where it kind of got with Jeff was, where's our money? Because we were budgeted to spend this. At least we didn't spend it because we didn't have it really, technically. And we have people coming at us based off of what the city is telling them we have money to spend on.
Yeah.
So where's our money?
Well, and
Is-
it goes back, and we'll talk about this with the Franklin Field update, but we talked about spots.
We wouldn't have been able to do
anything.
anything.
Do it, so.
Yeah. Okay.
So, well, Sean, getting back to the revenues, so I'm trying to understand this. So, I'm looking at the motel room tax, through 12/31.
Yep.
Right, and it lists, these must be the hotels in town, like their ownership entities, right? And then there's amounts here. And so, for example, our ownership group is FF&E LLC. Now, there's a Franklin Hotel Company LLC on here. I don't know if that is the Staybridge ownership group or if that's us, but it's not.
Which one is it?
You see in here 1027 Franklin is. That could be the ownership of the Staybridge, but that doesn't sound right. So what I'm wondering is how maybe if the room taxes that, let's say we submitted, paid the amount the city was due, then maybe we don't even show up on here because
Yeah.
that went there. Then maybe we don't even show up on here because
Yeah.
that went there. Is that the case, or is it a prorated part of everybody?
So do you see you on here?
I don't. We would be listed.
So now the questions that I have based off of conversation is did you guys sublease your rooms? Did you guys sublease your rooms for like construction use? Because that impacts our funding. So that's where
Right.
the question is whether or not how that lined up. But that's a good question is where are you guys?
So it's interesting because there was a letter.
But that's a good question is where are you guys?
It's interesting because there was a letter that went out. In fact, I've got to follow up with the mayor on this because I got to understand what's going on. But we received a letter about just advising hotels about their responsibilities when it comes to long-term stays. Hotels about their responsibilities when it comes to long-term stays and that. Well, you have a Staybridge in town which is all about long-term stays, right? So they have lots of guests that stay, 30 days and more. That's the whole concept. And then we get the occasional guest that stays more than 30 days. And yes, when they cross over that, we can't charge guest that stays more than 30 days. And yes, when they cross over that, we can't charge sales tax or city room tax. But that shouldn't impact that's just the nature of
Well, I think
guests.
it's the right thing to say is like just where is all this going? Like
Right.
why don't how I see it is the room tax should be one summary of every room tax, the total that goes
Collected,
into it,
right.
and then it shows out what goes to the city, what goes to us.
Right.
So that should be a line item.
Right.
Because it's technically the room tax to me is coming in, but then we pay the city and then we get our cut. Like that's the way I look at it. We
Right.
should still be able to see that.
Exactly, right? So all room tax receipts coming in, then you taking your, 75% that you had grandfathered in, and we get what's left. But at least we know what's coming in. Is that,
Yeah, you're right.
I'm not sure what we're looking at here. That's the problem.
What we're
I'm not
looking at,
sure
yeah,
what
what we're looking at is what
It's
we
12/31/21.
collected.
I'm not sure exactly.
What we're looking at is
how
what
that-
we collected. We're not looking at what
We're at the city.
the city
In
collected.
terms of the long-term stay, does it, like, once they pass the 31-day mark, is it from the beginning?
Right.
Any other questions? Any other questions, Lance? You good? Okay, 6:20. Closing finance report. All right. Item 5, engage Franklin.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, right on.
So the Franklin for having us.
Yeah, right on.
So the Franklin Hotel Company is Staybridge.
It is
Just
Staybridge.
Googled it. Yep,
Okay.
just so you know.
Good.
So here's my tiny little screen here, my presentation, but I'll talk.
Before you get into that quickly,
Yes, go ahead,
just
Joe.
a couple of quick tourism sort of updates from Rockview. Quick tourism sort of updates from Rockview. So we were picked to host the All-Star Game for the American Association. That'll be in July of this summer, I believe. I don't think the date's been chosen yet, but that's so that's a big win for us. And then I'm sure you guys have seen on social media and stuff. Savannah Bananas will be here in September 8th and 9th, I believe.
Great.
Massive win from a tourism perspective. The footprint that they have, we're already selling tickets. So that'll be sold out before.
It's just in Chicago. Do you know like how much people that brought down to their?
But we can find out.
Okay.
I just wanted me to make
Fine.
sure that I put that on the
That'd
radar.
be nice to know.
Yeah,
But for
Because I
both
know-
those, I wanted to like sort of like a tourism marketing plan. Maybe if you can sort of lead the efforts around that. So maybe by next meeting or the meeting after that, we can.
Definitely.
Okay.
Is that all?
That's all from my perspective. Other than Engage Franklin has been close to my heart for a long time, and I think everyone in here, we've, it's been when you look at the Franklin Field partnership and the Bridgeway to sort of close the gap on the investment, and for the first time in a long time, I feel very, very confident, positive, excited about bringing on Laura and having her sort of present this. I feel like we're in a really, really good spot. So. You can take it from here.
Cool. Perfect. Well, it's nice. Basically, I'm just going to step you through some slides, but you can ask me questions or whatever. Ask me to expound on anything if I glaze over something. You guys are a really informed group, so I'm also sorry that I may be reminding you of some things. So Engage Franklin. I've been here 31 days now, and this is my 31st. Is Engage Franklin. I've heard of it, but I don't know what it is. Right? It's even come from some of the people who are close to the project who've maybe lost touch and don't understand what, and can't tie it back to what it originally was. So it is a nonprofit tourism entity. So it's like a CVB, VCB, DMO, anything with visit or destination in front of its name. We operate just like those guys. It is independent. So we are not tying ourselves as a subsidiary of any private business of the city, county, or commission. So we are fully independent and autonomous, but highly collaborative. So obviously we can't exist without private business. We can't exist without public entity. So we can't exist without public entity. So, but we do stand alone. We want to be a collaborative entity. And third, we are an economic driver. That's why we exist. We exist to create more money by an existing revenue stream. So basically, we want to attract visitors. Basically, we want to attract visitors, connect our businesses with visitor dollars, and turn hotel tax revenue into more hotel tax revenue, growing the fund, ultimately. It's not as simple as just heads and beds, but that is our metric, really. That's the easiest metric to go by. There's our metric, really. That's the easiest metric to go by. There's so much more involved in that, though. That's me. And this is just who I am. You can't read any of that, so I'll just kind of go over it. I have a history of hotel sales and marketing, both in the convention center, extended stay, and limited convention center, extended stay, and limited service hotels. So I've experienced and sold them all. I've marketed them all. So I've been boots on the ground in those scenarios, really understanding the innkeepers and what it takes to collect the room tax dollars. But then I've also served as executive director for the CVB in Wisconsin Rapids. And during my time doing that, had the awesome CVB in Wisconsin Rapids. And during my time doing that, had the awesome, most memorable experience of starting a nonprofit tourism entity in the town of Rome. Sand Valley decided to choose town of Rome, tiniest little speck on the map, but sand dunes for days, right? So it's the perfect golf course destination. And I was the nearest DMO, Destination and Management Organization, close by. So I got to actually launch it from the ground up, and it was a tremendous experience. And that's what has me so fired up about being here too. So also, I understand what it's like to be you guys on the various volunteer boards and commissions, because I've definitely done my time there too. I think there are so many synergies here. I like to point at it as a best practice because it really has worked out extremely well, and it was very, very streamlined. As streamlined as any of these processes could be, really. So their branding is on point. It's not about, it's not fake. It's not just logos. It's really the people of Rome welcoming people. It's not always easy for the people who live there and the people who already have existing business there to accept this influx of people, right? And especially in a rapidly developing community like this one is too. So also it's short-term rental focused. There are a ton of cottages and homes that get rented out in town of Rome. And so there's a concern of the ability of the group. So it's something that we are told is also a very big deal here. Obviously, I have to educate myself on that a little bit more and, engage in the appropriate software and research. But that is potential for us too. I know it's existing, and I know that, considering the sports market and the large corporation. And then also it has what I like to call like the four stool legs. It's private, so they have Sand Valley Golf Course. They exist in the realty business. That's where their visitor center is. So they engage with their private businesses to make sure that they're leveraging all of those connections. It's public, so obviously they're funded. And then, and they're highly engaged. They have seats on the board of directors, and they're very communicative. So a lot of the issues with regard to where's the money, how much is that, what should we forecast, is done at the same table over there, which is really, really progressive. And then they are the nonprofit entity, right? So they exist as the nonprofit entity, like I explained, as we have Engage Franklin set up. They also have a charitable organization tied to it. They have a 501c3 arm where they basically seek to, write for grants and garner funds to bolster the tourism community and all the small businesses within. So that bolster the tourism community and all the small businesses within. So my heart is with Rome. They do it really well. I left them a long time ago, and it's even better than when I left. So.
And you sort of were a main driver in creating that and launching that business, which is why when you look at that compared to Engage Franklin, it's she's a very, very good fit for this effort.
Thank you. And so I knew that in being in Wisconsin Rapids, I knew Sand Valley was coming in and that they were going to have a lot of room keys at a very high rate in a very short period of time. Their development rate was huge. They were smart. They just came in and poured a bunch of money into it, and then poof, it existed in like 4 years. Wow. Now they're working on, I think, their 5th golf course or something like that. So quick influx of money that the town wasn't prepared for. How could they be prepared for it, right? So as their partner in tourism, I made sure that they created the entity and had this is just a mission statement I made up, but it's only here just because the board of directors of Engage Franklin will decide on its own mission through strategic action planning process and all those things, right? But I just wanted to put an example here that I'll just read it out loud. To engage in tourism promotion and tourism development, exemplifying Franklin as the city's tourism entity, Engage Franklin seeks to maximize the impact of the visitor economy, resulting in managed growth and prosperity for those who live and work in the community. That's just there to outline the different markets there are in tourism. It's not just people vacationing. It's a lot of different things and a lot of different ways to market. And then tying it back to the community, because that's what it actually is about. It's about the people who live and work here, the people who invest in this community, and how we can leverage this asset to their benefit. Lots of words. What is a DMO, Destination Marketing Organization and Destination Management Organization? I just wanted to put this on here because a lot of times people think, well, we can do marketing. Anyone can do marketing, right? There are a ton of marketing firms out there, but none so many as DMOs are entrenched in the community. They really are. It's not necessarily just, it is about all these metrics and about all of the, it's not necessarily just, it is about all these metrics and about all of the, tasks and data collection and ROI and all of that. It is definitely about all of that. But then it is more, it's deeper than that. It's about community connections, it's about advocacy for the industry. It's about being adaptable for the industry. It's about being adaptable. It's about a bunch of different things. So being a nonprofit versus a for-profit in that instance makes us more qualified to do the marketing aspects because we know the community better than anybody. I certainly will. It's day 31. I'm working on it. It's day 31. I'm working on it. This is just a rehash of that partnership model with the four stool legs. That it's the most rock solid way to move forward in any scenario. If you have the public, the Tourism Commission as an arm of the city, the private, Rock Ventures and other business developments in the as an arm of the city, the private, Rock Ventures and other business developments in the area are clearly invested. Our innkeepers are invested, right? Nonprofit, that's Engage Franklin. That's our entity. We serve all of the above, and then the charitable foundation to come, just because I feel like that makes everything stronger. It shows that you're truly giving back. My time in destination marketing, I have become extremely well versed in room tax law. Okay, so it's one of those things that when it got flipped on its ear in 2017, a lot of municipalities were they felt very inconvenienced. They felt kind of slapped across the face because this money. It is the reality we're living in, right? So that, and there is a purpose for it. So I'm just going to step through the room tax cycle as I know it to be, and I'm not going to bore you with like quoting tax law and all that stuff, but it starts with the overnight guest, starts with Lance and his people. It starts with people opening their wallets and spending the night, right? And that goes to the city of Franklin because of a step down clause that ended in 2021. So from 2021 moving forward, it's the amount that they retained in 2010 is what they can retain moving forward forever, or 30% of total revenue, whichever's greater.
Right.
So that magic number, what I believe it to be, is 151.9. That magic number, what I believe it to be, is 151.9.
That's for all the hotels, everything in Franklin.
That's what I believe the municipality is able to retain for general funds.
Okay.
So what of all the revenues that get collected, that's their piece of the pie that they're collecting before they're giving the tourism commission their piece. That's their piece of the pie that they're collecting before they're giving the tourism commission their piece. So, and then so the balance not retained for general fund, which they're totally entitled to that. And we want to help them grow that because we want it to be the 30%, not that static number that they're stuck with forever, right? The idea is to grow together and make everybody happy, right? The idea is to grow together and make everybody happy. Balanced that is not retained for general fund goes to you guys, and that's the legalities of what you guys have to do. You guys are well versed in that, obviously. And then the spot that's missing in Franklin and in a lot of southeastern communities here in Wisconsin is that the law actually states you have to contract with a nonprofit tourism entity to perform all of your services. So technically speaking, the commission as an arm of the city, commission as a commission of the city, needs to actually contract with a nonprofit tourism entity. Now, it seems like you guys already had that going because in the Franklin Field thing, it's written into it that this needs to happen and this is happening, and that's all good. So it seems like everything's on the right track, and the good news is we're here. We're here and we're ready and we're established. So that news is we're here. We're here and we're ready and we're established. So that's good. And then Engage Franklin, we are a nonprofit status, at least 51% on tourism promotion, tourism development. I would say that we probably spend more than 51% because that's the reason we exist. So we don't have any other motives. So we don't have any other motives other than to promote tourism. So that's what we're planning to do. And then we provide staff and services. Here I am. Yay. And then, of course, we market and promote the area, generating more. So if it's done right, tourism is the area, generating more. So if it's done right, tourism is like a snowball rolling downhill. You get the money, you create more money, you get the money, you create more money, and it's a beautiful thing because everybody gets richer. And the community benefits and thrives. So that is the room tax cycle as I understand it. And then, and I've been chatting with our nonprofit, attorney, so I know I'm not an attorney, so I shouldn't be speaking as a legal authority, but I have backed up my work.
Any questions on that?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
a lot of questions.
I forget.
So how are you getting your funding?
Currently, we don't
Yes.
have any funding.
Exactly.
Currently, I exist. I have
So
no funding,
The
yes.
funding is coming from you currently, the Rock.
Yes,
Yes.
the Rock is, as a private entity, is funding, Laura's salary and whatever. Obviously, because we believe in the mission, we're a huge driver in tourism. and when we created the
Yep.
Franklin Field Agreement, that ultimately there would be a relationship with
Yep.
Engage Franklin, who now can stand on their own.
Yep.
We'll have an agreement with the City of Franklin Tourism, and then beyond that, even hopefully extending on to other sort of neighboring communities where together as a community we come in. I'm sort of stealing your thunder a little bit, but we take all of our facilities and all of our hotels and whatever and put them together. Now as a group, we can now garner larger events that where Franklin couldn't do it by themselves, Oak Creek couldn't do it by themselves, Greendale couldn't do it by themselves.
So not yet.
I mean, in order to have a membership model, I feel like we'd have to have at least 3 years under our belt and deliver enough value to be a member, to have an organization worthy of membership. Do you know what
So
I
it's
mean?
more soliciting money from other tourism identities to help them market. Is that what you're looking to do?
No, so what we're looking to do is through room tax. Through
Yep.
in some municipalities a commission exists and in some they don't exist. So in a lot of the CVBs that, like for example the one that I worked with in Rapids, the CVB there contracted directly with the city. And each quarter they got this percentage, we got this percentage, we reported to them as often as they great trusting, relationship, and that's what happened. So in 2017, when the commissions started to become a piece of the action, I believe there to be some misunderstanding that the commission was intended to carry out the operations of tourism promotion and tourism development, when in fact the law states that the tourism entity, nonprofit tourism entity, is to be the entity to do so. Now, I don't want to strong arm anything or try to, say that this is, the way it has to be, and I'm telling anybody what to do, but at the same time, that's how it's written and it's for, and I'm telling anybody what to do, but at the same time, that's how it's written and it's for the purpose that there's a separate entity that is mission driven only, that is one step away from the city, one step away from private entity, to stand alone and serve the mission wholeheartedly with a board of directors of stakeholders from all of the above. So everybody's represented. It's just under no one's umbrella. Do you know what I
Not to
mean?
stray too far from John's question, but just real quick.
Mhm.
I know when we were presented with this idea of, well, what do you do with this room tax? If I remember right from the law, you could form a commission like ours and spend it to an organization like Engage Franklin and promote and say, here you go. Or start a commission and you could spend those dollars directly. And then that commission could determine whether, hey, listen, we're all volunteers, we're gonna hire somebody or we're gonna give this money to somebody else. But you didn't have to. You could write just like we're doing, you could approve funding and engage contractors that need to turn that money over to a a tourism promotion entity, right?
Well, I'm not trying to be contradictory.
No.
It does specifically state, says in this particular
Is this
portion.
coming right from the law then?
Yes, this is a quote. If the single municipality imposes room tax under par, they create a commission under par. The commission shall contract with another organization to perform the functions of tourism entity.
Shall.
Shall.
Okay.
So it does. I mean, again, I want this to be a want to.
Yeah, so I'm confused as to who you're contracting with, us or the city.
It would be you as an arm of the commission.
Us or the city.
It would be you as an arm of the commission is a commission of the city. So
In this instance, because there's a commission formed, it would be through the commission.
yes,
If in an instance there was no commission formed, it would probably be with the city.
correct.
Yes.
Right, like the city of Beloit where we do business. They don't have a tourism commission, right? City of Beloit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, like the city of Beloit where we do business. They don't have a tourism commission, right? City of
Right.
Beloit just there's Visit Beloit, and their
Visit Beloit.
mission is 100% to promote tourism activity in the city of Beloit. They get 90% of the room tax.
Yeah.
But turned over by the city of Beloit, away they go.
So anyway, that's the way it's written. So anyway, that's the way it's written. And regardless of any specifics in legality, what we want to do with Engage Franklin is to garner room tax to the extent which it's valuable for everybody involved in order to create more room tax. That's basically for everybody involved in order to create more room tax. That's basically what we want to exist to do, and obviously benefit the community in the meantime. So currently, my salary is funded through Rock Ventures, but I'm an employee of Engage Franklin with a private revenue line that just so happens to come from that. And with a private revenue line that just so happens to come from there. The idea and the ideal would be to be publicly funded and have public revenue be the primary source. Not to say we wouldn't write for grants or seek out private revenue through memberships or, anything like that. Or cooperative marketing, of course. That's definitely on the to-do list. I'd like to form a sports commission. So,
Yeah, that'd be a great idea.
so that's where we are with that. I just I mentioned it before, the 150.19 is what I believe the city is currently holding for general fund, and tax revenue to 506,334. That means they're starting on the 30%, and that means we're in a growth structure, that they're not capped anymore at that particular number. So the idea is to get to the point where we are all working at the same goal to really leverage this as a revenue stream for both general fund in the city and tourism. It's here. All right, so here's where we are right now. Right now, forming the board of directors, and that'll be done within the month, as well as the nonprofit application will be on file with IRS within a month, and we will be able to function as a nonprofit tourism entity with a full board, moving forward with strategic action planning and all following month. So we'd like to look at 2023 as an action plan year and actually start doing some serious promotion and development in the tourism realm. Because right now we have those logistics are basically finished, and we can start the fun, the marketing, the planning, all the good stuff. Mark's going to talk about that. This is just as it pertains to the entity that it states in there the creation of a nonprofit tourism entity of Engage Franklin, just that it will exist, right? So here we are. That's good. Check on that box. Engage Franklin, it also says that Engage Franklin, once it's formed and functioning, which by all means, it may assume the rights. So it may or it may not, depending on what you guys want to do. But in the instance that we are publicly funded in some sense, then that obligation is taken on by this organization, and it doesn't have to be on your line items anymore. So that's in there as an option, as a possibility that I'm, as the sole staff member, willing to take on and happy to do. And then the lobby and the tourism center, we'll talk about that. I think it's one of those things that I put it's 3.4, so it technically chronologically should be higher, but if this happens, it chronologically should be higher, but if we take over the rights and obligations of the commitment, then we would pay for our own tourism center, because that would be,
All right.
then we would just move forward in that direction. So, and regarding the lobby area and things like that, that can all be a discussion for another day. And regarding the lobby area and things like that, that can all be a discussion for another day. Got bigger fish to fry.
Can you go back to the Franklin Field agreement?
Yeah.
So the
Sorry.
updated agreement that you guys sent to us, is that what you're saying is a
What
lobby
was the
new
original?
agreement?
Yeah, it
So
wasn't.
where it took
It wasn't
us out
updated, it
as
was
an
the
updated
original.
employee? Okay.
Or anything or updated it. That was. the
So what
original.
are you asking for in the Franklin Field agreement?
Nothing.
Nothing.
In the
I'm
the
just
Franklin
referencing
Field
it.
agreement?
What do you mean by assuming rights and obligation payments?
So what it says is, this is a quote from there in 4.4. Once Engage Franklin is an approved 501c6, the Franklin Tourism Commission may assign this agreement to.
And turn it over to you.
Yeah, we would be.
So you don't want the
responsible for that.
$150,000 to the milkman?
No, you.
Well, they would
Engage
take the
Franklin would.
obligation.
Right. So assuming
As the
in an
tourism
ideal
entity.
sense,
Got it.
we are the
Okay.
tourism entity for the commission. We get publicly funded by the commission, and we just have to take on the operations responsibility of making sure we pay that bill.
Got it.
And hold us accountable.
Right. Well, and in the sense, I'm glad you brought up the deliverables. So in that sense also, if this were to take place and Engage Franklin would have the responsibilities of that and tracking the deliverables. That doesn't mean the commission itself would be opted out of the fund deliverables that contract can provide, because I can't fill 8 seats. It's still going to be, it's still going to be the volunteers like you guys who would still benefit from all of those the good things.
And then all of the branding, nothing would change in terms of as it relates to Engage Franklin. It would still be Franklin Field. None of the elements in there would Franklin. It would still be Franklin Field. None of the elements in there would change from a marketing perspective. It would still all the goal would be to have the city benefit from the naming rights and the marketing aspect of it.
Got it.
They would Engage Franklin would just manage the execution. Franklin would just manage the execution of the contract and the marketing piece of it.
Well, and with whatever Engage Franklin tends to do, should we be dubbed the tourism entity of this commission, you guys are in on all the strategic planning, right? So you guys are in on all the strategic planning, right? So I'm getting
It'll
to
save you time. It'll save you time. You don't have to work with Nathan.
unless you want to be the board treasurer.
Nathan and I have a good relationship.
I won't have to go on conference calls anymore at work.
So I should also mention it's
At work.
So I should also mention it's the intention of Engage Franklin to have an ex officio commissioner on the board, an ex officio alderperson on the board, and an ex officio from the Rock representing that side of that contract on the board. So then that way everybody gets a seat at the table, everybody has a direct line of communication to the city. Everybody gets a seat at the table, everybody has a direct line of communication to the city as an entity, this
Sure.
commission as the steward of the fund, right? And then obviously the private businesses that have already invested. So we want to make sure, and we also will have professional services as seats on the board for financial, for legal, all the appropriate ones, so that we don't.
This commission and extension and a rocket booster, so to speak, to be able to execute on tourism type marketing initiatives.
Yeah. So like, any contracts you guys would like to see executed, it doesn't mean that, Engage Franklin won't execute them. It just means we would do the work. It's executed through the nonprofit entity and then reported back with ROI and data to back it up. So we can say, was that a good one or a bad one? And, all the things that we do when we do business. So the tourism entity agreement, this is all just proposed ideas. So the term could begin, if you wanted to, will be a functioning nonprofit that the Engage Franklin would take over the rights and obligations of that, so that they culminate at the same time, of course, with checkpoints in between stating, is this working out or isn't this working out? Do things need to change, etc. That can always be built into a contract, but I'd like the basic term to be, should we move forward and you would dub Engage Franklin the tourism entity, move forward and you would dub Engage Franklin the tourism entity, that it would begin as soon as we could, and then it would be in sync with that contract because it would make sense. Funding cycle, forget about that. I thought you guys got paid quarterly, but apparently that's not the case.
We don't get paid.
So
We don't get paid.
so that's a big red X through that, but so that would just be something. I think that the conversation, all the data, all the money is there, and all of the the information is there. It's just a matter of getting everybody at the right table. So if we had an alderman at the table, it's just a matter of getting everybody at the right table. So if we had an alderman at the table, if we had a commissioner at the table, and we had some stakeholders at the table, that's where those conversations could easily take place as well, too.
Sure.
So, and then these were just suggestions that, from my experience, what works the best, Engage Franklin Board of Directors would meet monthly, reconcile all accounts. Or what works the best, Engage Franklin Board of Directors would meet monthly, reconcile all accounts, report financials monthly. That detailed information would be in the hands of each of the stakeholders. That would be the communication line to the commission and to the council as well, and to the Rock. So everybody would have all of the information about literally what's being spent every month. So there would have all of the information about literally what's being spent every month. So there would be full transparency. And let's see here. The commission should still meet regularly to drive this. I didn't know if you'd want to move to quarterly, or if you'd want to do monthly, or just sit in with our meetings, or whatever you'd feel like doing. But I feel as though at least one joint annual meeting should take place. Should we be the tourism entity, and you guys would be the drivers of the decisions of this entity? I believe that at least one joint meeting should take place, and it should be ahead of budget season, so that we can determine what strong initiatives and what dollars should be set aside for those. And then this is just the timeline. If it all launched at that point in time, we would have all partnerships finalized by November. Entity development, we'd be doing strategic action planning. We would have our board ready to roll. We would have industry immersion meeting board ready to roll. We would have industry immersion meeting. We would join industry organizations and really get our name out there. And then mobility would be by March at the latest. I believe it should be earlier, but mobility means that we have our brand out there. We have all of our social media going. We have our website. We have ads and promotions going. We have a local tour. Ads and promotions going. We have a local tourism awareness campaign. All the things that go along with when you toot your own horn, right? And make sure that you're known. And then we would have a couple of initiatives like collateral pieces, a visitor guide, those types of things in place at that point in time. And then by the time that we would be sitting down for budget for not just 1 year, but what we believe we should accomplish in, our 3, 5, 10 year. So that, I don't want to put you to sleep. We're done. Okay.
That's good.
Okay. Thanks.
So I know there was a lot of, can you email that to me?
Absolutely.
Because there was a lot of people that couldn't be here tonight that had a bunch of questions. So, because I think there was some, you met with everybody, right? Who'd you meet with?
I did not meet with Ed. I met with I just spoke with Lance today, but I met with all but Ed.
Okay. I know there was
And
some,
Mayor Olson. I haven't met with
Okay.
Mayor Olson.
oh, okay. Yeah, there was just a bunch of people wanted to sit down and talk about it as a group. Additional funding from us on top of that 150K. What would you propose? What are you proposing?
I would propose that we market Franklin, that we so as I mentioned, there's sports marketing, there's meetings and conventions and corporate travel, and then there's leisure. So we would try an organization called Sports ETA. There's a bid list, an RFP list that's got hundreds of RFPs for sanctioned sports events that we could try to fill the dark months here. Or if in Mosh's case, in the summer months, right? We try to fill where we're not full and, create demand.
And
where
your
there
goal
none.
is just not.
Commission idea. This is for another day, but just to give you the idea where my brain is at, I would like to have to approach Oak Creek and to approach the county with a cooperative sports marketing plan to create a commission where we would, utilize all facilities and all guest rooms as one marketable source. Go to these symposiums for sports ETA so that, Franklin alone, Oak Creek doesn't have enough sports facilities to get the big fish. The county doesn't have enough resources and time and human capital to go and get the big fish, right? So when we all work together and I can be that pinwheel with minimal investment on all ends, I would go and get the big fish and then be that person to schedule and coordinate and create innkeeper relationships and then be that person to schedule and coordinate and create innkeeper relationships and make sure that we have that going. So
I think it would be my first intake would be good to see what your first year you're looking to do.
you want
Just financially, I mean, coming through with a budget. I mean, I hate to say this, we're going to talk about through the budget. I mean, I hate to say this, we're going to talk about how to market Franklin tonight with Carl Collective. And the point is if there's additional resources that should go to this rather than that, we don't want to be double dipping here.
Right. We don't need
So,
to do both.
and I'm of course the last. I mean, we should all talk. We should all talk about this, of course. But
Yep.
I think seeing a yearly where you think you want to be first year.
Well, and maybe we should be clear on this, is what you're asking, and I think this is where you're going, is it Engage Franklin basically because you're creating this tourism promotion flow right to Engage Franklin. There wouldn't be this independent budget we would have.
Or the marketing service line.
Yeah.
Like we would keep enough for our wayside signs that we've committed to, other additional little things that we need to do. And then we have a service line of 80,000 or additional 1,000 that could go into this rather than
If I'm hearing you right, it sounds like we, as your marketing entity, all funds that the Tourism Commission sees in its budget are going right to Engage Franklin, and then it's being, the promotion is happening through that entity, right?
Correct. Now, in doing that, so the wayside and the investments that you guys have committed to, that too can get transferred, so that your initiatives are still being done, your voice is still being heard in what needs to be done. You're still driving the bus, so to speak. It's just you don't have to deal with doing it.
Right.
You can just make sure I'm doing it.
Yeah, I think that's
Doing it.
Right.
You can just make sure I'm doing it.
Yeah, I think that's a vote that I think we've talked about like 10 months ago, I think, of what direction when we see Engage Franklin, where do we see our dollar assets going?
Right.
We see that we have struggles with the city in terms of accomplishing certain going.
Right.
We see that we have struggles with the city in terms of accomplishing certain things. There's a big definition problem of what our tourism dollars should go towards based off of us and City Hall. So I think as a commission, it's going to be a lot of us. As a commission, it's going to be a lot of us. I mean, everyone's going to have to be here to decide that, but how that funding goes streamed, the city decided to have a tourism commission. They decided to have that rather than privately go through this. But to the point, we've been doing this now. A lot of us three have been sitting here for what, 5 years?
5 years, yeah.
Doing this now. A lot of us three have been sitting here for what, 5 years?
5 years, yeah.
So, and we see the struggles of having it done. So
Right.
I think it's worth the conversation. Just knowing where you see yourself going in year one can help that.
Mhm.
I think because right now the questions I'm getting, not just from people but from City Hall, is questions I'm getting, not just from people but from City Hall, is we don't have to give you anything,
Mhm.
right? But it's on our benefit to give you something, is it? But at the same time, the pressure is like, how do we know what we're giving you money to spend?
What is that? I don't have to give you anything. Mean.
Meaning, we give you the 150, but we're done. Like, we don't have to contribute to Engage Franklin.
Oh, got it. Yeah.
My point, you get what I'm getting
Yeah,
at? It's
yeah.
it would be a benefit to our group.
Oh, you're telling.
If
Yeah, you're. Yeah,
you go, the city is telling
us
like
that.
I'm getting it from all angles.
Yeah.
Is like, well, with you coming on board, like, what does that mean? Because we already have a tourism about it because of
Right.
the struggles we've had.
Right.
And just to speak on behalf of Rock Ventures, like we obviously believe in the tourism efforts related to Franklin. For obvious reasons, we're a huge contributor to that. That's why, to the point that we are solely, our goal is to give funding for you to do your thing. I mean, obviously, you've done this before. You're, wildly well positioned to do this for the area, and not only Franklin, but to sort of, to your point before, how do we work together and sort of 1 + 1 = 3.
I recommend to learn more about why I stated that. You probably stay for the next few agenda items because there is a conflict of the definition of what we should contribute to. Like, I mean, we've all sat here, so that's my point. Is like it's just a battle for the last 5 years of my point. Is like it's just a battle for the last 5 years of what really this tourism commission should be donating their funds to or giving their funds to. It's like, there's been concert series. There's been, I mean, we had Little League here talking about that. I brought that up.
Right.
There's been a lot of different angles that people think we should be that up.
Right.
There's been a lot of different angles that people think we should be contributing. There's the Forte Theater that we feel like that they should feel like we should be paying for. There's a lot of different things that people feel that we should be paying for that we don't feel that is partially part of our responsibility. We don't feel that is partially part of our responsibility. So to have something focus on a tourism way of promoting it might make sense. So that's why we just all need to talk about it.
Yeah. No, I agree.
So if you could send that to me to send to everybody, even the city, I mean, I'd probably send it to Jeff. Even the city, I mean, I'd probably send it to Jeff and Sandy too, so.
You got it.
Okay, cool. Any questions? You guys have anything else?
I don't think so.
I just have one thought with regard to sympathizing with your positions right now. With you mentioned having a lot of people coming at you, right? And rightfully so. They see. I mean, to them, it's city funding, right? That you go toward X, Y, or Z for whatever reasons. I just want to speak to the fact that that's why the idea of it exists. That's why it's written into this, so that the commission of the city doesn't have to be burdened by both the political pull of being a part of the city and the responsibility of following through with the mission that is stated in the state law, right? So it's inevitably going to be a position, I guess is what I'm saying.
Let me
And so-
elaborate on why I said that, because a lot of the big ticket item that's in our budget is $150K that goes to the naming rights. There's many people in this community that feel that we should not have paid that much for that, and that our spend is not even equal to what we get. Where difference of opinion, but the amount of people that go onto that facility and the amount of people that should be represented in Franklin and see that, I see that spend. I think it's worth that spend, especially when the Rock is a majority of our tourism. but it's that sticker shock of we paid for that,
Fair.
that we paid for that.
Fair.
That should mean like, what more should we contribute?
Right.
I mean, would you agree to that?
No, I totally agree. People hear that we funded the naming rights, and they hear the dollar amount, and they go, why would you do that?
I still get asked that constantly. Like,
And for clarity, the dollar amount was $250,000.
I get asked that constantly. Like,
And for clarity, the dollar amount was $250,000 and not one.
No, Joe,
So
I
there's
get it.
so there's still
I get it.
that
Joe,
there's
I get
still
it.
that gap that Engage Franklin
I think
through
what
its
we're-
efforts can help bolster the benefit to the city and take that whatever that 190 the benefit to the city and take that whatever that 191.
I think what we're saying is how we can lift this is by trying to figure out how we're going to capture the community on this
Right.
trail.
Right.
Like we're all contributing. We love the Franklin Field thing. It's just a matter of taking next step forward in the Franklin Field thing. It's just a matter of taking next step forward and doing this. How do we think about the city? Because that's been our challenge here for the last few years is how do we now start marketing Franklin rather than as tourism, rather than just the Rock? So it's kind of like, I get what you're saying. I think it's part of the fact that, so it's kind of like, I get what you're saying. I think it's part of the fact that you're at the Rock and you're funded through the Rock, like that. We got to figure out how to balance that. Just hearing from what I'm hearing, like
And
that's
maybe one of
Yeah.
the things that we work to put into the naming rights thing is like something as huge as the Savannah Bananas coming here. Like that is a national
totally.
brand that will take the Franklin Field name.
Totally.
So I don't know how we take that data and represent that on paper.
It makes sense.
It'll certainly be a key one
Yeah.
next year.
It,
Lux Golf.
Right.
Is a great example, and maybe on the surface, people will look at that and go, well, that's another great amenity at Ballpark Commons. But the thing that we're seeing as a corporate hotel, corporate groups, they're sponsoring Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday get-togethers, right? Just like you'd rent out, you're doing a
Oh,
corporate
sure,
getaway and you'll
sure.
rent out a golf course, or you'll do whatever for a little team building, or we're seeing that. And I don't know that we had thought, we thought obviously it would add to the benefit for the area. There's been a lot of activity around.
Plus you got the Rock and Pickle up, on its way, and there's just
Yeah.
okay.
All right, so we'll send that and any other.
If I can just know like what we're doing for the FERC, what you're planning,
Yeah.
thinking of
So,
one
for
first
year
year.
one.
Like what we're doing for the FERC, what you're planning,
Yeah.
thinking of
So,
one
for
first
year
year.
one.
Yeah, year
So-
one might not be a bad idea.
It would help if I had a figure to work with. I mean, a
So-
vague figure.
So
because,
it's going to be public in a few minutes. Like
Yeah.
we have Carl Collective that's pitching us to do a huge marketing scope across Franklin, and this could be to do a huge marketing scope across Franklin, and discover, plan, and incorporate big PR movement that I sent out to everybody. A campaign exploration with digital, video, all this. There's a lot of debate in that contract, but it was a big spend. It's a lot of debate in that contract, but it was a big spend. You're talking about close to $200,000 spend.
over 1 year.
Yeah. Actually, $135,000 in 1 year, $65,000 the first year just to collect data. So that's where we haven't sat down and tell you in the paperwork you have right there. We've allocated another $80,000 for marketing services that we thought was contributed to it.
Yeah.
So and I can tell you too, the legal services and other items that are on there were put in there just in case we need it. So I would say there's we should talk back in the next maybe few weeks once we hear back on some of these budgeting things.
Yeah.
And we can kind of go from there.
You got it.
Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense.
Like I think the question here is we don't know what we have coming in.
Absolutely. Well, and I understand why I obviously haven't seen the Carl Collective presentation, but a local people know who you are, why you exist, all those types of things. I totally get why you're looking into something along those lines.
We are not. It's been pitched. So
I
we are solely, it's been pitched of that this company has done stuff here at City Hall, and that this company has done stuff here at City Hall, and there's a gap of that they feel that we should be branding and still marketing our community with our restaurants, with our grocery stores, with our everything, pretty much everything across the board. And
I get it.
so stores with our everything, pretty much everything across the board. And
I get it.
so the debate is that we don't feel that that drives tourism, but we haven't had time to sit down and talk about it. But that's what's been asked of us, is to listen to the pitch.
I understand.
Yeah. So
Can you answer one question for me?
Yes.
Clarify one question. So the dollars.
yeah. So
Can you answer one question for me?
Yes.
Clarify one question. So the dollars coming into the room tax dollars, those are dollars that come into the city from outside
Mhm.
of the city, correct? So
Yes.
those are
Generally
not,
speaking,
those are
yeah.
not like quote unquote local.
Right.
It's not like city money necessarily. Yeah,
Right.
right.
Tax.
Right.
So that's why they're intended to go and drive and things of that nature. Is that correct?
Correct. I mean, it is intended. It wasn't brought to light that that was the intention until 2017, which is why everybody is having a hard time shifting to that mentality.
Mhm.
You know, rightfully so. But yes, that's the intention: is outside dollars get funneled through to market and promote and acquire more visitors.
Yeah.
And that's a really simple model.
Right.
Money comes in, money gets promoted to bring more in, more money comes in. I mean, it's just it is really simple at its core.
And I think the original legislation was pretty clear, to be honest. They said, we're gonna be like, like one of your businesses, specifically in the state of Wisconsin. It only applies to you, you have to collect the tax.
Right.
It raises the cost of your goods and services because it's just viewed as the
Right.
total cost. And you turn around, you have to give it to somebody. And what you hope is when you turn around and give it to somebody, that they're gonna bring more sports
Right.
activity, fill your stadiums, that kind of thing.
Right.
That's what we're talking about with hotels.
Yeah.
So it was always meant to be that way. It's
Right.
just a pot of money and let's build sidewalks
Yeah.
and roads and things
Right.
like that.
Right.
Right.
And it took that legislation to say, wait a second, this has been going on way too long. We've got to get back to tourism promotion.
Right.
And that's really what drove that. And it was Wisconsin Lodging and folks that said, come on now, we're collecting this tax and
Yeah.
lodging.
Makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
Any other questions?
No.
All
Thank
right.
you guys. Appreciate it.
Yep, 7:07, closing Engage Franklin. Item number 5, Franklin Field update. Do you have anything?
I would say last year we had a lot of information about the relationship, and I think we've done a lot to correct that. Nathan and I have a good relationship. They met all of their deliverables to us. We didn't partake in some of the things that they owed us.
Yeah.
We didn't use the appearances.
Yeah.
We didn't use the appearances by players or the mascot.
The
We
mascot
used-
we didn't do?
We did not do the mascot. Now, we probably could in the next 2 months. I don't know. Now, we probably could in the next 2 months. I don't know if they still have a player.
Yeah.
But we can do a better job of that next year.
Well, also we didn't do the bathroom signage.
We did the bathroom signage.
We did it?
Yeah, the bathrooms
We
have.
put
signage.
advertising?
Well, they have the Franklin.
Oh, the Franklin. Yeah.
Franklin thing.
Okay. Yeah.
Franklin thing.
Okay.
We have the pregame announcement. We have the pregame video. We sponsored 3 games, 3 of the key games. We gave away this nice little magnet, which doesn't really hold up anymore. But people
Can I see
grab
that?
them.
I think
Sure.
that's the first time I've seen it.
There was a monument sign. You can have that.
Yeah. He's got like 10.
Sign. There's a monument sign coming in through the entry that had the tourism specific games that we were
Mhm.
sponsoring. They were well attended. We had the 8 tickets per game. Did give away some to some nonprofits as fundraising opportunities for them.
Okay.
You don't know, Lance, but we talked about sponsoring Hill Has Eyes and Lux Golf. Lux Golf would have been something similar to Franklin Field, what we did there. And we could that was decorated as Franklin and then had signage throughout the concourses and on the video displays. Hill Has Eyes, they have 4 different paths that converge, and we could add signage there. Sean and I talked about that. We could add signage there. Sean and I talked about that.
And we say we could for additional or underneath the
No,
terms
for
of the
additional,
district.
for additional.
Additional.
For the Hill Has Eyes, they were talking about $20,000 for the signage. Sean and I talked about it. We didn't know how much money we had. For Lux Golf, they were talking something closer to. For Lux Golf, they were talking something closer to 100,000, but we never got to anything serious talking about it. But we still could.
Right.
So that's an opportunity we could do going forward. And part of that could come down to what we do with Engage Franklin too.
Yeah.
But I think that could come down to what we do with Engage Franklin too.
Yeah.
But I think the relationship is solid. There's good camaraderie, if you will. There's good feelings between us and them.
Yeah, I think we're in good shape there.
Yeah.
As far as the folks you're working with at the Rock.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Good.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Good.
All right.
Okay.
7-Eleven closing. Franklin Field update. Item number
I'll take it.
1, 2, 3, 4. Item number 7, car collective proposal. So, item number 7, car collective proposal. So,
So you said something. Is this something they're doing for the city?
So I met with the mayor and Eric that from Carl Collective a long time ago. I would say this was probably back in, and we sat down and talked. And they're forming kind of like it's a marketing agency, and they're partnering with partner with like Marquette College students to do a lot of their proposals. They've done some work for Ed I believe, on his campaign for us to help us market Franklin to help to drive tourism. So what happened is strategically we were talking about what they've already done. They've done some things through Kansas City Sports. I believe I've emailed everybody over and got them. And this is what they came back with. So a lot of what they want to do is in 2 phases. They want to do a discover and planning, which is they want to do kind of the same things that Thiel did for us, give us a deep dive exercise, do an audit, come up with some marketing plan to where they want to do like a PR community engagement, a campaign exploration in phase 2. Phase 3 would be where they execute and develop. So it seems like in their proposal was in 2022 that they would just be gathering data, gathering information to do the marketing campaign. Then in 23, their focus would be on like 2 main areas, PR and community engagement, and then campaign execution, media placement, buying, and continuous asset. It's like a rotation, like either social media, billboards, bringing like the news into Franklin to some of the businesses, etc., stuff like that. The initial spend was what they're asking for is a 2-cycle spend, $64,000 to capture and gather the assets from what I'm looking at. And then a PR/campaign spend of $135,000. Now, the point of this, what I want to state is, there in all of these, of course, the point of this, what I want to state is, there in all of these, of course, there's not much, like, this is buying. This isn't even developing. So you're talking that
We're paying them to put
Yeah.
this together.
Yep.
Yeah.
The execution piece
Yep.
is
To put
Yeah.
this together.
Yep.
Yeah.
the execution piece
Yep.
is
So this is where we're at with them. I think where I thought where we would be, where we could be, is that tonight maybe we just here, give me your thoughts, put down some thoughts on paper. Just here, give me your thoughts, put down some thoughts on paper. Eric would like to come to the next meeting to see where we're at. I'd like to have pretty much a full discussion on this. There's a lot that I think we can all talk about. There's a lot that I think is great about this. There's a lot that I think that is not so great. There are things that I think is great about this. There's a lot that I think that is not so great. There are things that I feel that if people feel engaged, that a lot of Engage Franklin can do this with littler dollars. But I'd like to take him back something in terms of just overall comments. Does that make sense? So it sounds like what they were gonna, like, the focus never was on, I can tell you when we were talking, the marketing aspect of it is what kind of, like they showed me a commercial of them downtown in Milwaukee marketing a restaurant in South Milwaukee. And I'm like, I don't know if that's really our responsibility. Like, and this is where I was stating to you guys before in the past is on what we should be spending our dollars on.
Right.
There's been some debate in this conversation of maybe do I pitch that we change our mission statement. I feel like, I guess the question would relate is do we feel by marketing this, does this put more heads in beds?
And that's part of what we envision Engage Franklin to be.
This is why I'm happy that both you and Lance are here, because we've sat through Thiel together.
Yeah.
Right. And I feel like, just reading some of this, that
Yep.
we're covering ground that we've covered and that we've paid for it. I don't know what we got for deliverables from them. I'm getting a look at.
Deliverables from them.
From
Theo, when
Theo,
they
you know, when
did a
they
lot of
finished
those
the.
So
I know we weren't crazy about some of the website development and some of the things that.
the things that I looked back at some of that, what we were not crazy about is we weren't too crazy about the analytics that we were brought to us.
Mhm.
We weren't too happy with the assets and
Meaning the inventory of
the inventory
tourism.
that was collected.
Yeah.
We felt like what we spent, there was a lot.
Yeah.
I think we should also remember when we did that we also did it partnered with the Economic Development
Right,
Commission.
the logo.
So that's where a lot of this PR stuff, a lot of this campaign, like development, buying, like tourism, economic development, this could all be another partnership proposal.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I thought we went past that. Was going to be to put heads in beds.
Yeah.
Right.
And then someplace that got lost between Callie and Theo and Carrie, I think. There was no follow-up one.
It was,
Here's a
yeah.
website, let's keep it up to date.
Well, so
Develop that.
you're right. Farther, the website was supposed to be the help and formation of having a tourism center,
Right,
or kiosks
Right.
that we talked about in our budget for this year.
right.
All of that would be tied to that. Now what's happening though is Engage Franklin has been is do we double dip? Like, do we market? This is where this lies. Do we brand Franklin with our own tourism,
Mm-hmm.
or do we shift the dollars into something that is going to brand itself tourism and spread it across the whole community? That's what we just watched, right?
Right.
So this is economic and this is tourism, in my opinion. I don't even know if there's much more economic to me.
Right. And I think that's the.
More economic to me.
Right. And I think that's the. Something Laura said though that I think I need to circle back on because I'm not sure that she's got that exactly right because again,
Yep.
we were at this from the beginning and we spent a lot of time looking at the law. Again,
Yep.
we were at this from the beginning and we spent a lot of time looking at the law, right? And getting our facts right from
Yeah.
the state. And the reason we formed the Tourism Commission is we wanted local control of those dollars. If we didn't want local control, if we felt like tourism marketing's good, however it comes our way, we would have given our dollar. Tourism marketing's good, however it comes our way, we would have given our dollars to the South Suburban Chamber of Commerce or Visit Milwaukee and said,
We had that choice.
we had that choice. And early on, we decided, we just don't think the return based on our hotel base here, right? And at the time, The Rock was just getting developed and
Right.
underway. We just felt like we'd be underserved, that the dollars we contribute to
Right.
underway. We just felt like we'd be underserved, that the dollars we contribute to Visit Milwaukee or to the South Suburban Chamber of Commerce, we wouldn't get the return on investment.
I mean,
And
we stopped.
decided-
We stopped signing up for certain memberships because we were getting nothing in return.
Right. And so we thought, we'll make those decisions. And that's why the truth. So we don't have to. And that's why the truth. So we don't have to funnel money to
Well, that's- yeah.
and engage. And,
That's what
and
it
they
said,
were
yeah.
basic, right? And they
Yeah.
were basically, she was making the case, no, it's state law, you have to.
No,
we don't have
we
to.
already do. We give them 50% of our money through Franklin Field.
Right.
That's what I think everybody is not understanding. 50% of our budget is going through the 150. That's like right now. That's
Yeah.
50% of our budget.
Right.
I'm glad to hear you two talk about that as far as the comments you're getting from the community, because I get the same thing. And that is, why would you, why are you spending that money in that way? They're having trouble seeing the connection to overnight stays and the promotion. But it isn't the best use of these dollars. And I would say that underlying, this tents and beds thing, it really isn't that difficult. Just somebody has to work it. That's the problem. You're putting in a lot of time. Sean, you're putting in a lot of time. But you have day jobs and you have other things going on. And so you can't be there pushing it successful, or Visit Milwaukee is that there's an executive director. That's all they do. Every
Yeah.
day they worry about how are we going to promote.
Right.
So they have a board and the board comes up with a great idea and then they run with it. And so at the next board meeting, it's done. Take it off your list. You see the promotional materials. And I guess the issue that we're kind of, and I guess the issue that we're kind of dealing with here is that we're trying to figure out, and we thought we had this with maybe hiring someone direct. How do we get someone to just execute for us? Yeah, who does the heavy lifting, and actually does this?
Well, that's where I think we've talked about is like we felt with Carrie we didn't. That's where I think we've talked about is like we felt with Carrie we didn't get that freedom.
Mm-hmm.
We felt that. I mean, it was always a challenging thing where, we needed somebody, but then the city didn't want to have that somebody feel like their own,
Right.
and then and then the support there is lost. I can tell you since I've taken on a lot of that, the mayor is very good at answering his calls for me. I'll tell you, Sandy has been fantastic, and Callie when she was here, and John even responds. But I will tell you right now, we have one alderman that is here that contributes to our commission.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the one that is participating in our commission. And to your point, there's a lot of revolving doors that those guys are in community that can help us that can help contribute to this. And that's what I'm saying, between us as volunteers,
Yep.
we're doing the best we can. Now, this Carl Collective thing, this would take more work for one of us. This would be that making sure that the assets they have align. Plus the $64,000 or whatever planning, those assets you're talking, that's $30,000. That might be part assets, but like, what are you going to do once we get to summer? Once we get to Christmas, you're going to have to build a whole thing of assets.
Mm-hmm.
So that $64,000 could go up. But I agree with you that we still could have control.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Is that what you're trying to like?
Yeah, and I should have asked Mike the question was here, because Mike obviously, was at the very creation of. Was I understanding this correctly, that the idea behind Engage Franklin was almost it would help solve this question we had of
Yes.
business to business
That was-
promotion,
That was one
right?
of the drivers.
Well, that's why I asked
Tourism.
if it's a membership.
Right, and that was the idea. They were going to charge a membership fee, so that if I'm Ace Hardware, and I want to get in on more people coming into town, even if it's for tourism. Maybe somebody needs some duct tape or something.
It sounded like tonight that's not what it's about.
Right. It sounds like it's moved more towards tourism promotion. However, it still sounds like there's some things that feel like they're more business to business, that it'd be great if you had other sources of revenue that you could also help. These requests that we get, that we say, it's not, hasn't been help. These requests that we get, that we say, you know, it's not, hasn't been.
Well, that's, yeah.
And Engage Franklin could pick those up, and with other sources of funding, say, we'll take care of that. And I'll be quite honest, this Franklin Field, moving that over there could be a real, that's really something to consider, because again, in my mind, it is promotion, because again, in my mind, it is promotion, it certainly, it's great awareness, whether it, let's put it this way, Engage Franklin, that may be the perfect place to.
It allows us to
manage
use our assets that we have on the grounds for the community.
Yeah. And
Assets that we have on the grounds for the community.
yeah, and it feels more like it's belongs there, right?
Yeah.
Than maybe here, freeing us up to, you know, again, just whether it's all dollars going there or whether we're carving out something to really target, you know.
I think the hard thing that
target, you know.
I think the hard thing that I have, so this was a complete, I mean, and of course we're talking about Carl Collective right now, but I think it's right to talk about Engage Franklin at the same time with this. It's a twist. They threw a twist at us with, they threw a twist at us with, they hired Laura. They hired Laura that was supposed to be a joint employee. That isn't. They send us a proposal that shows us taking that out of that person out. Joe's mentioned there is a gap, that it wasn't 150,000. So in my point in there is that I think it's interesting on how the formation of this is going. I do agree with you, Lance, that I didn't hear anything that I stated like the Forte Theater.
The Forte Theater, the Concert in the Park series.
So that's where, to me, I'm wondering if that would be contributed to if we would donate more. But there is no fund. Like, I guess that's the good thing, is that our hands contribute to this.
Right.
But this is what comes our way, is like, do we want to focus more on marketing dollars there for them to spend in the community, or do we want to do this on our own?
And when I look at this, so I agree with you, and I think, you know, what I'm hearing you say is, we've got a decision to make. We're at a crossroads here, right? You guys tell me if you think I'm off base with this, but you look at this, what you're really saying is, we want to take the lead as a commission on spending the tourism money that we have. You know, we're going to do it. We're going to spend it. We're going to allocate it. We're going to get help from folks like this. But we're still really,
Still driving.
we're still driving it, and we're still following up. We're still holding people accountable. Way to go is to do what, and frankly, this happens all over the state, is that the monies, whether it comes through a tourism commission like ours, or straight from the city coffers, goes right to a destination, a tourism marketing organization, and you run with it. And yes, we'll hold you accountable. I mean, you know, we'll sit on your board information and we'll just make sure that things are happening, but you are doing it, and it's getting done. And I think,
Which minimizes our time that we have to put in on that.
yeah, because my fear is that if you try to do both get diluted, you know? You're not
Yeah, I
funding
think-
what you should over here, and then you're not getting what you want over here either.
I think we also should think about, though, too, is that you got to remember, and they didn't like when I said this, but it's on the rock. I get it, you get it, we all get it. It's on the rock. We're known to give them money for the 150. Community assets goes, if it goes to Engage Franklin, that's still on the rock. It's going to still be assets goes, if it goes to Engage Franklin, that's still on the rock. It's going to still be perceived as that. So
It's still a rock endeavor.
So the question would be, is how does the rock show that this is going to go into the community, is where this year one key is.
Yeah, and I will say for, you know, this, and I will say for, you know, this, finding Laura was I think was a real bonus for the, I mean, they found someone very competent. I mean, I know a little bit about her. My brother knows her, and she's up in that central Wisconsin area. She really is qualified to do tourism promotion. I think that's why you saw the move in Engage Franklin more towards a true tourism promotion entity, which is good for us. This is exactly what we've been talking about. That's why there's been a move away from maybe more of the that this originally started with. So, you know, I guess where I'm going with
So-
this is, I think we would want to make sure that, again, if our dollars are funneled in here, that it is truly going towards the tourism promotion.
Yeah, so right here, let's just go through this really quick, because I want to pull out some points of what I've noticed reading this. Strategic marketing planning on page 1. Owned from your website and social media to signage, marketing, collateral, communication channels, Franklin owns. Okay, so Franklin owns. Okay, so it looks like that they're going to build assets and stuff for that. The question is who controls that, right? Right now, I'm going to ask that. So, like, who controls? Because right now, nobody controls it. Like, it's now nobody controls it. Like, it's up there and running.
Right.
Earned third-party endorsement, whether earned through media coverage directly, key influencers, public realm is a powerful tool. So they're going to look in and find all that. So strategic planning, the question is, full tool. So they're going to look in and find all that. So strategic planning, the question is currently what you're building or what you're proposing. Nobody currently is owning that right now. We have social media channels. We have websites. Nobody's owning that. So if you build assets for it, who's going to control our website? So if you build assets for it, who's going to control our websites, our
Who's going to
social?
maintain it?
And when you say so when you say
Maintain
control, you mean maintain.
Maintain.
And, right.
Maintain's a better word.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, page 2. PR engagement. They're looking at we would move quickly to develop a PR engagement. They're looking at we would move quickly to develop a PR engagement plan, including potential storytellers, storylines to begin telling the story of Franklin businesses. So again, that's where
Somebody here has to do that.
organizations, events through local, regional media,
To do that.
organizations, events through local, regional media, exploration, sponsorships, events, partnerships, and other opportunities. To me, the problem I have with this is, how does that involve tourism? I thought of you when I read this part.
Back to who controls or who maintains. So you get a bunch of folks that read it all jazzed about
Right.
some, maybe we whatever, we promote some bird watching over at, you know, one of the trails. And we get calls, right? Who responds to those calls? Who follows up on this PR, right? Who
Yep.
takes it from I'm
Digital advertising, social media, video execution, non-traditional grassroots approach. So again, like, you're going to explore this campaign, but again, who's maintaining it, right?
And if we had that director, employer,
That isn't even on here. We'll bring to life the marketing campaign developed in 2022, including creating campaign assets for those to be used at Franklin Field. We will also continue to work in gathering all seasons video assets for use in the marketing campaign. For more detail, we would be provided once the marketing plan is approved. More detail will be provided once the marketing. Okay. We will also put into action media buying strategy. So right there, this is a media buying. So this includes, like, this is a media buying. So this includes, like, not even buying the full media.
right? Somebody's still going to have to manage that.
Develop in 2022. We'll examine paid and social channels. So look into both traditional and digital. So look into both traditional and digital, and other opportunities to ensure we are bringing the campaign to life on the appropriate platforms. So I think looking at this feeing, the things that are sticking in my head is the money in here for bringing it to life, right?
Right. Who on your end is coordinating all this? Because we might say this is great, but who is actually going to place those media buys then?
Right.
Who is going to respond?
Because we're not.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
And that's dreams. This is the perfect activity for somebody who's in a role that needs this firepower, right? They need somebody to go out and pull this information together, and then says, "Great, I'll work with you on this." But
Yep.
I'll make it happen.
okay. So the way I'm going to approach it to Eric at Carl Collective is that I think that we have, in regards to coordinating the budget, who's maintaining it, who's executing it, is all that fees in here part of that. We should also state to him that, there's different directions that we can go with marketing and that accessibility. How do we do that? And then we can have him come at accessibility. How do we do that? And then we can have him come in, and then we have Laura come in from Engage Franklin,
Yeah.
and we can start talking about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
That makes sense.
All right. 7:35 closing Carl Collective proposal. 7:35 closing Carl Collective proposal. All right. Item 8 voucher approvals.
The only one I'm aware of is this one, and we don't have the money right now.
Okay. So can we stem that for December?
Yeah.
And then
And
we'll
I
propose it.
I will get in touch with them and
Stem that for December.
yeah.
And then
And
we'll propose it.
I will get in touch with them and explain to them the challenge that we have.
Okay. They would be fine. We did the same thing last year. I think we approved it in December, and then we got it to them. As long as it's approved at December's, actually November's, then it can get put in December's, November's, then it can get put into December for the
check.
for the check.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you know how quickly then the city does turn around when they get
Not
their
very
room
quick.
tax
So how do they turn that
Oh,
around?
no, the room tax receipts, because I do think we'll be seeing some money coming in.
So how do they turn that
Oh,
around?
no, the room tax receipts, because I do think we'll be seeing some money coming in now here.
Yeah, so we're supposed to see money, some come in November, and then November and December, and then a chunk come in January.
Okay, because hotels have to submit their room tax by the end of this month. So
Mhm.
10/31 they have to pay through September 30th.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
10/31 they have to pay through September 30th.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there'll be a chunk, that would include, and that's the third quarter, which is pretty decent here
Yeah.
in this area, so it should be.
All right, closing voucher approval, then the next meeting. So does the next one fall under things going back in November? Everybody's availability is fine for Wednesday still
In November.
in November, for November and December.
Yeah. I'm
You're
okay.
out December, right? So we were gonna,
No, I'm here December, right? I'm out the last part of January through middle of March.
so would the meeting fall under, okay. All right, so let's right now just jot down November 16th. Do you want me, we can email, I can email to you everything you need,
Okay,
okay?
that would be great.
Okay, November 16th at 6 o'clock. Okay,